Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Larry, and if there's one thing life has taught me, it's that not all betrayals are the same. Some are small, and others cut so deep that they change you. They don't just hurt, they shift the entire direction of your life. People hear stories about cheating, lies, and deception all the time, and they think they've heard it all. But what my wife did to me was different. I look back now, and I realize that one decision she made completely altered the path of my life. I never saw this coming, and I doubt you will either. Back then, life was good. I ran my own business, and for a long time, things were going exactly the way I wanted. Money was never a problem, and I never had to second-guess any decision I made. For a while, that was exactly how things played out. That was the life I had when I met Anna at an event. I don't even remember what it was for anymore, but I remember her. We talked, exchanged contacts, and from that moment on, we kept in touch. At first, it was casual conversations, a few meetups here and there. But the more time we spent together, the more I started to see her as someone I could build a future with. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were in a relationship. Getting married felt like the natural next step. The wedding itself wasn't some extravagant event, but it was perfect in its own way. At that moment, I truly believed I had made the right choice. The early years of our marriage were exactly what I had hoped for. Anna had everything she needed, and I made sure of that. She never had to worry about money, bills, or responsibilities beyond what she wanted to do. If she wanted to travel, we traveled. If she wanted something, I got it for her without thinking twice. It wasn't even about spoiling her. I just saw it as part of my role as a husband. I was the provider, and I took pride in that. And for a while, life felt stable. I had a wife, a home, and a business that was doing well. I truly believed Anna and I were a team. I had no reason to think otherwise. But the thing about life is, just when you think you've got it all figured out, reality has a way of reminding you that nothing is ever as solid as it seems. When my business first started having trouble a few years after marriage, I told myself it was just a rough patch. Every business has ups and downs, and I'd been through challenges before. But this time, things were different. Money wasn't coming in like it used to, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't turn things around fast enough. At first, Anna seemed concerned, asking about the business and whether things would get better. But that concern didn't last long. When she realized that I couldn't just snap my fingers and make everything right overnight, her attitude started to change. She now acted like I was just another man who had failed her. I remember the night I finally told her about the house. I had refinanced it and used the money to invest in the business. It was a risk, but in my mind, it was a necessary one. I didn't want to see everything I had built crumble, and I was confident I could turn things around. When I sat her down and explained, I could see the anger rising in her eyes before I even finished my sentence. She was furious. "You did what?" she snapped, her voice sharp like a knife. I expected her to be upset. It was our home, after all. But what I didn't expect was the way she started treating me after that. That conversation didn't just make her mad. It made her lose every bit of respect she had for me. From that day forward, it was like I had become someone beneath her. She didn't just argue with me, she mocked me. Every time we talked, there was a jab or sarcastic remark. She would subtly do it in front of friends, too. At first, I told myself it was just her frustration talking. That once things got better, she'd go back to being the woman I married. But as the months passed, I began to doubt myself. I stopped trying to explain things to her. What was the point? Every conversation turned into an argument. Every effort to make her understand only made things worse. So, I focused on my work. But even as I drowned myself in work, I couldn't shake the feeling that she might be considering leaving me. Or she was even seeing someone else. I had no proof, so I tried to push the thoughts away, not having any idea just how bad things were going to get. Anna's friend was getting married, and the wedding was set at some remote destination. When Anna first brought it up, I barely even looked up from my laptop. My mind was completely occupied with trying to fix the disaster my business had become. A wedding, especially one that required traveling, was the last thing on my list of priorities. I told Anna I wasn't interested. I figured that was the end of it. But, of course, it wasn't. Anna didn't just want me to go. She demanded it. She gave me an ultimatum, saying that if I wouldn't be her plus one, she'd just take someone else. Honestly, at that point, I didn't even care. But what I did know was that if I told her to go without me, she'd use that as an excuse to do whatever she wanted. If something happened, she'd turn around and say, "Well, you didn't come, so what did you expect?" I didn't want to deal with that kind of headache. So, just to shut her up, I agreed to go. To be fair, getting away from my usual stress was refreshing. I had spent so much time drowning in numbers, spreadsheets, and failed deals that I forgot what it was like to just be out in the world. The drive there was long, but it gave me something I hadn't had in a while, a break. For a few hours, I watched the world pass by. When we finally arrived, I had to admit, the place was stunning. The wedding was held at this high-end resort that looked like something out of a luxury travel magazine. Perfectly arranged flowers, candlelit tables, a breathtaking view of the ocean. It was a kind of setting that made you forget your problems, even if just for a moment. I played my part, smiled when I needed to, made small talk with people I barely knew, and tried to pretend that things between Anna and me were still normal. And for a short time, it actually felt that way. But that illusion shattered on the way back. After the wedding, we got back on the road, heading home. It was me, Anna, and two of her friends in the car, chatting about the wedding. The wedding had been a temporary distraction, but now reality was settling back in. Somewhere along the way, we needed gas, so I pulled into a station. It has a convenience store with few people coming and going. After filling up, I figured I'd grab a drink and use the restroom before getting back on the road. I told Anna I'd be right back, but she barely acknowledged me. When I came out of the restroom, I walked back toward the spot where I had parked, but the car wasn't there. I stopped and looked around. I stood there, waiting, expecting to see the car roll back into view. Maybe they had moved it as a joke. Anna might just be messing with me, trying to prove a point. But as the minutes ticked by, I began to come to terms with the fact that they weren't coming back. I left both my phone and wallet in the car. I had nothing on me except the clothes on my back. I won't lie, panic started creeping in. I walked up to the gas station attendant, an older man who barely looked up from his newspaper. "Hey, my wife and her friends just left me here by mistake. Can I use your phone to call someone?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. He didn't even hesitate. "No phone for customers." I almost laughed. "No, I mean this is an emergency. They left me behind. I just need to call someone to pick me up." He sighed like I was bothering him. "No phone," he repeated, turning the page. I stepped back. If he wasn't going to help, I'd find someone else. I approached a few people who had pulled in for gas, explaining my situation. But the moment they realized I had no ID, no phone, nothing to prove who I was, I could see their expressions change. Some shook their heads. Others gave me a quick "sorry man" before driving off. I didn't blame them. If a stranger with no wallet, no phone, and no proof of anything came up to me at a remote gas station asking for help, I'd probably be cautious too. As the hours dragged on, I paced a lot, hoping every pair of headlights would be them returning for me. But they never came. My mouth was dry, my stomach was empty, and the reality of my situation was settling in like a weight on my chest as it got dark. The gas station, already eerie in the daylight, turned into something out of a nightmare. I had nowhere to go. No money for a motel, no one to call, and no way to leave. Eventually, exhaustion won. I found an old bench near the side of the building, curled up, and tried to sleep. The cold crept into my bones, and every creak and shuffle in the night kept me on edge. It was the longest, most humiliating night of my life. As I lay there, staring up at the sky, one thought kept running through my mind. She really left me. The next morning, I woke up with a dry throat. I barely got any sleep. My stomach growled, reminding me that I hadn't eaten since the previous afternoon when I grabbed snacks before we left the wedding. But food was the least of my worries. If I didn't figure something out soon, I'd be stuck in this hellhole for God knows how long. I spent hours trying to get anyone to help me. I approached strangers, explaining my situation, but no one wanted to listen. I couldn't blame them. I looked like a mess, unkempt, desperate, and worst of all, I had no way to prove who I was. I asked to borrow a phone, offering to dial the number myself, so they wouldn't think I was scamming them. But people were hesitant. By midday, out of nowhere, my luck shifted. A trucker was refueling at the station, and I decided to try one more time. He was a big guy, maybe in his late 50s, with a weathered face and a no-nonsense attitude. When I explained what had happened, he didn't respond right away. He just stared at me like he was deciding whether I was worth the risk. Then he sighed and said, "Get in. I ain't promising anything, but I'll drop you off in the next city. That's the best I can do." I don't think I've ever been more grateful in my life. I climbed into his truck, and as we drove, he asked a few questions, trying to make sense of my story. I kept my answers short. The ride was mostly silent. When we reached a bigger city, I thanked him, stepped out of the truck, and immediately got to work finding a way to contact someone I could trust. Eventually, I managed to reach a family relative, a cousin who was shocked to hear from me, but didn't ask too many questions. He sent me money for food and transportation, and by the end of that day, I had a roof over my head. But something inside me had changed. After 2 days of being stranded, something inside me hardened. I wasn't just angry. I was done with Anna. I didn't even think about going home. Why would I? I didn't call Anna. I didn't try to contact any of our mutual friends. As far as I was concerned, that chapter of my life was over. And I made sure of it. Since the house had been bought under my business, I took the one thing I had left, control. I declared bankruptcy. That house? Gone. Foreclosed. I knew what that meant for Anna. I knew she'd be kicked out. And I didn't care. That betrayal became my fuel in the days and weeks after. I poured everything I had into work, clawing my way back from nothing. It didn't matter what it was. If it paid, I did it. It was exhausting, but I had no choice. The first year was the hardest. I had nothing, but it was around this time that I met someone, Jessica. She saw me for who I was, not who I used to be. By the second year, I started to see real progress. I found steady work. By the third year, I had my own place, a modest apartment. I wasn't wealthy, but I was stable. By the fifth year, I had fully moved on. I wasn't rich like I had been before, but I was comfortable. I had a home, a career, and a relationship with someone who truly cared for me. Most importantly, I had peace. It had been years since I last thought about Anna. My life had moved forward piece by piece, and I had no intention of looking back. Then, out of nowhere, one evening, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen, wondering who was calling me with an unknown number. The moment I said hello, I wished I hadn't. The voice on the other end was Anna's. My mind took a second to process it. I didn't even let her get far. The second she started begging me to hear her out, I cut her off. "Don't ever call me again," I said. Then I hung up. But she didn't stop. The calls kept coming. I ignored them at first, but when I checked my phone later, I saw over 100 missed calls. I blocked her number, thinking that would be the end of it. I was wrong. She started using different numbers, calling from every direction, like a desperate gambler trying to win back lost money. Every time it rang, I knew it was her. I put it on silent, refusing to give her the reaction she wanted. Then, after some few days, I heard a knock at my door one evening. When I pulled the door open, there she stood, Anna with tears in her eyes, looking at me like I was the missing piece in her life. The second she saw my face, she broke down, crying like she was the victim in all this. She started rambling, saying it was all a misunderstanding. That leaving me at that gas station wasn't what I thought. It was a prank, she said. I didn't know your phone was in the car. She swore up and down that she came back for me but couldn't find me. That she had been suffering for years not knowing where I was. "Do you know how much I suffered not knowing if you were dead or alive?" she sobbed. I just stood there watching her put on this performance. But then, as if flipping a switch, she changed tactics. "Why didn't you try harder to contact me?" she demanded, like this whole thing was my fault. "You just left. You didn't even try to fix things. That's when I knew exactly what this was. This wasn't an apology. This was desperation. And when she looked at me with those pleading eyes, swearing she never moved on, that she had waited for me all these years, I realized something. I didn't feel a damn thing for her anymore, and that told me everything I needed to know. I asked her to leave. When I finally learned the truth about why Anna abandoned me later, it wasn't shocking. It was just confirmation of what I had already suspected deep down. That day at the gas station, she didn't just drive off and forget about me. She wasn't planning to come back. She wanted me gone. She wanted a way out of the marriage without the hassle of an actual breakup. And the worst part? While I was drowning in financial struggles, trying to rebuild our life, she had someone else. I didn't have proof at the time, but I ignored the signs. From what I later discovered, when I never came back, she continued on with her life like I never existed. And at first, it worked. She had the freedom she wanted. But reality has a way of catching up with people. When I declared bankruptcy and the house was foreclosed, she was completely blindsided. She had gotten comfortable living in a home that was technically never hers. My company had owned it, and the moment I let everything go, she was left with nothing. She tried to maintain her old lifestyle, refusing to adjust to her reality. She burned through whatever savings she had, took on debt just to keep up appearances, and in no time, the man she had left me for realized she was no longer an asset. She was a liability. So, like clockwork, he did what selfish people do best. He left. That's when she started bouncing from friend to friend, looking for a place to crash. I heard she did things she never imagined just to get by, things she'd probably never admit to if you asked her. And that's when she started looking for me. Not because she missed me or regretted what she had done, but because she had run out of options. Looking back, I can't even count how many times I wondered if I could have done something differently. But the truth is, some betrayals leave no room for second chances. That's why I ask you, what would you have done in my situation? Would you have let her back in? Would you have given her a second chance? Or would you have walked away just like I did? I want to know your thoughts because I know situations like this happen more often than people think. Maybe not in the exact same way, but betrayal is betrayal, and it always leaves the same bitter taste. At the end of the day, I learned that true love doesn't disappear the moment life gets hard. Real loyalty doesn't come with conditions. And most importantly, self-respect means knowing when to walk away, even if part of you wants to stay. Because sometimes, the best closure is moving on without looking back.